Welcome back to the First Strike North America Closed Qualifiers, presented to you by Nerd Street Gamers. If you've just joined us, we are well underway to round off Group C here in the qualifiers. Sentinels have already made it to the playoffs, but there is still one spot left, and that will go to either Envy or Dignitas. Joining me for this best of three, as you can see, are your casters, Dust and On Fire Vince. Guys, we've already seen so many great teams make it through, just today, and there is 2 spots left, I believe, and one of them will have to go to either Dignitas or Envy, like I said. Dignitas are, of course, kind of on the back foot because they dropped down to that lower bracket a bit earlier than Envy, but how big of a challenge do you think this will be for them to go up against a team like Envy, Dust?
I think it's going to be really difficult. I mean, the bottom line is the bulk of this new lineup, like Odorous and Maka, have never really done well when they've played against top-level competition. They haven't even done so very often. Now, the core of this team, when you look at Dev, Superman, and Psalm, they actually did have success at some bigger events when they placed top 4 at PAX, as well as they did all right in the Knights Gauntlet series. Even did pretty well in Pop Flash, getting top 4 there as well. But that was with, poised on the team, and when they were having guys like Lasky and Shanks kind of on board. Now it's a whole different ball game, and I'm not really sure if they're going to be ready yet as a unit to do a whole lot. I mean, they did well enough, to get to this point, but to be honest, they didn't really beat anyone of big name value in the open qualifiers, and when they played 100 Thieves, they got absolutely blasted. O2 didn't even put up much of a contest there, and they had a close map against Sentinels on Haven, but outside of that, they were unable to beat again, anyone really of a big name. I feel like they're kind of like a gatekeeper team, where they're not quite a top 5 team or something like that in the region, but they're still within the top 10 and still pretty good. But when they have to play against an elite level team, I think things get difficult on them. But we'll see if they can rise to the occasion here.
Vince, whilst I have you here, I would absolutely love to pick your brains about Def, a player that you're super familiar with. We saw him yesterday here in the qualifiers. He has sort of moved on from playing the Cypher into the Killjoy, which is super interesting because he, in my opinion, has been one of the more consistent Cyphers in the North American scene. But his Killjoy still needs a little bit of work. But I just wanted to know what you've made of his transition, into Valorant, how he's done in the game, and how much more do you think he has for room for improvement?
I think he's a guy that, having spoken with him quite a few times, super chill, very open to criticism, doesn't take himself too seriously, doesn't have a massive ego, which kind of goes against the grain when it comes to UKCS and Valorant, I guess you could say. Kind of a toxic bunch, to be honest. So he's a real shining beacon, and I think that's reflected in his success with CS, a legit CS player in his own right. And I'm making a transition to Valorant. I think this guy is going to be capable of great things. I think he's kind of like a glue player, brings people together. And that's not even mentioning his skill level. Yeah, going across the Killjoy, you've seen a few people do this, likes of Steel as well. And sure, it could do with some work, but I think he's the kind of player that will know that, and he'll address that. He won't pretend he's the greatest Killjoy in the world, and that will allow him to make improvements. So I'm hoping each game, map by map, we see improvements and we see him have a lot more impact. And let's be honest, he's going to need it today if they want a chance of beating Envy.
And speaking of beating Envy, Dust, like you said, it is going to be a bit of a challenge, but like I said earlier, it's not just playoffs that's on the line, it's also elimination. And on the outside, especially on paper, I think not many people would expect Dignitas to be one of the ones to make it out of this group, if you look at the fact that they also had Sentinels here as well. So how much pressure is this on for Envy, and what does this mean for the organization and for the team if they were to drop out of the qualifications today in this fashion?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're Envy, you really don't have any excuses to lose this game. I mean, not only is Dignitas going through big roster changes, bringing in Maka and Odorous, who are kind of coming up from Tier 2, and again, just kind of seeing top-tier competition for the first time on a regular basis, they're also having to go through a bunch of agent changes with both Psalm and Def, right? Like, Psalm's playing completely different roles, so is Def, or at least switching over from one Sentinel to another, and so I think there's a lot in flux over there, whereas with your Envy, yeah, sure, you've also made your own roster changes coming into this, but I would say in some cases they've been upgrades, and a lot of the role swapping isn't as severe for them. Yeah, sure, Mummy has to play Omen a bit. Yeah, sure, so does Food. So there's a little bit of agent changing over there, but I think they're a little bit more solid. I think that their core playbook and everything is a lot more intact than what Dignitas is working with now. So I would think that they should be the heavy favorite. If they take the loss here, yeah, at least they have the UMG event as a safety net, sort of. But they really should be getting it done here and now.
Well, this is the fun part next because we are going to talk about the picks and bans. As you guys can see on your screen, it looks like Envy banned out Haven, which means Dignitas picked Bind. Then we're going to be going to Ascent, and if it goes to map 3, it will be split. Now, does this change anything? And do any of these maps favor one team in particular, do you think?
I mean, I don't really know much about Dignitas' map pool because they've just had such drastic roster changes and agent role swaps and all that good stuff that it's really hard to know like what their map pool even really is at this point. When I look over at Envy, since they've added food and crashies to the roster, they've actually been playing Ascent and Bind the most, and they've been successful on both of those maps thus far, outside of getting, obviously just pummeled by Sentinels there on Haven just moments ago. We even saw them put up a good fight against, Sentinels on Bind, taking it into multiple overtime. So I honestly think that Envy's probably pretty happy with how this shook down based on what we've seen out of them so far throughout this qualification process. I don't think they're mind these maps at all.
What do you think, Vince? Who's your money on now we know the map picks?
For me, it actually makes me even a little bit more sure that Envy are probably going to take this. I echo a lot of what Dust just said. The fact that Envy also start on the defense side, that's the side where they did best against Sentinels. I think this could get out of control pretty early on, and a lot of the onus is going to be on Dignitas. I suppose we could also say, though, to play devil's advocate, Dignitas could have just sat back and watched that game. They could have been having, the notepad out and the pen and jotting down some of the strats and potential weaknesses. So maybe that's something that could help Dignitas out.
I mean, knowing these players and knowing Def, I have no doubt they definitely watched their opponent quite closely, and we could see some anti-stratting. But, we always talk about teams being particularly strong or maybe weak on some maps, but with Icebox coming and with there being more maps coming in the very, very near future, I think we're going to get to a stage where you just don't have any excuses anymore if you don't play all the maps. So where do you guys sit on this map versatility? Do you think it's better to maybe try and get as many as possible, or to hone in 2 and 3 and just pray that your enemies aren't going to ban those stuff? What do you think?
Oh, it's kind of tough because coming from Counter-Strike, we had a 7 map pool, right? So you had to be responsible for a lot more. And so part of me wants to say there's no excuse. Like, you should be able to play all the maps when there's not that many in circulation, especially early on in the game until we get more maps added and the pool becomes wider. And then you have to, focus in on maybe, 4 or so maps and have a permaban and all that good stuff. But the other issue is that there's so many other variables in play in Valorant, right? You have to think about agent balancing. You have to think about composition, ability synergies. Like there's a lot more that goes into it, and it's patched way more often. So because of that, you added expansive map pool on top of that. I think that's where it gets like maybe a little bit out of control. So I can kind of sympathize, I think, with teams on how much they're able to focus on multiple maps when they have so many other factors they have to consider.
Well, hopefully we will get to that 7 map pool in Valorant as well, which will be really exciting. But for now, the one that matters is a Bind. It's time to find out if Dignitas have what it takes to take down Envy. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much. Yes, Bind up first on the chopping block, and a lot of pressure going into this one for both teams, as we've already discussed. Like, the fact is, sure, Envy will be the favorites, but if the upset happens, if they do stumble, they're done for. And that will be Dignitas qualifying. They'll get, well, not qualifying, but they'll get through to the playoffs with a good chance to qualify. So, I mean, the pressure's really on here, and Envy have had a lot of questions asked of them. I will also say, though, resilience-wise, kind of got a fan out of me. I was impressed the fact they came back. If you remember, it was 12-7 on Bind, and they managed to win 5 in a row to take us to overtime. They ended up conceding it, but the fact they had the spine in which to do it does give me quite a lot of sort of good thoughts going through into this map. But we'll have to see if Dignitas have been jotting down the strats, if they do have a good idea what they're going to bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say this, like, this Envy core has never placed outside of the top 8 in any tournament they've ever played in, even going back to whenever they were together, We Are Terrific, even before the Envy sponsorship came into play. But even as Envy, they've consistently been at least top 8. They've usually been in the top 4. They've made several finals appearances, like at Pop Flash, and they obviously made the finals of the Open Qualifiers. So I think that they are on pace. Losing the Sentinels, that's kind of what always happens, unfortunately, for them. That's been the behemoth that they haven't been able to conquer yet. But I think going into this series where they're up against a Dignitas who's very much in flux with their own lineup and their own roles, doing a lot of agent swapping with Def and Psalm in particular, even Maka, having to kind of pivot a little bit off of what he played on Morning Light coming into this team. So I think when you put that all into context and you consider how well Envy have played with Food and Crashies on board, I mean, yeah, sure, they got blown out by Sentinels, but every other game I've seen them play throughout this qualification process, they've looked fine. You know, like they've beaten pretty much everyone they've played against, other than Cloud9 in the finals of the Open Qualifier. So I think they shouldn't be sweating it too much. But Dignitas, this is a big opportunity for them.
Oh yeah, they're in the shop window right now. They have a lot of points to prove, and they have the world stage in which to utilize. As you said, they ran into the roadblock as Sentinels, as many teams, I'm sure, felt in the past. Discussed it. They were 41 or 42-8 coming into that game, so obviously they can extend that a little bit more. But Envy now, on the defense side, anything that's catching you off guard here in terms of the agent picks?
No, I mean, it's just worth pointing out that, you know, Psalm comes to this team playing a duelist now. He had played a lot of Sova in the past and even some Viper, particularly on Split. But now he's playing Reyna a ton in this closed qualification process, and obviously Def switching over to Killjoy. So you are indeed seeing, again, some of that role swapping we're talking about. As Psalm is actually able to open up here on the B site pretty quickly there. As Spike will get planted, Crashies having just kind of play behind the smoke here at Elbow and wait for his team to get in a position to go for the retake, and they're all going to be coming through back halls and Elbow. They have no presence outside Hookah or Long B. So a big advantage for Dignitas.
Crashy's had an excellent start against Sentinels, but he has already been silenced. 3-on-3. A low raise to contend with post-plant. And Envy have got to make the moves. It's Finesse who goes in first. Mummy trades out for one, instantly put down. And Caboose, the low player, now stuck out in the open. Alive somehow, but Superman puts him down. And Dignitas claim first blood.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk agents a little bit more, since it's still kind of early days here, we have that luxury. Maka did play a lot of Sova on Morning Light, so he's basically right at home. Superman obviously used to play a ton of Brim back when he was very much the meta, like early days of Valorant, but still plays him a little bit on Bind, but has elsewhere changes an Omen, as most other players have that play that kind of smoke character role. And then you're seeing basically the exact same comp you saw earlier from Envy. You know, this is kind of their bread and butter comp they like to, you know, open up with on this map, so nothing really too special as far as agent pick goes outside of what we've talked about.
Psalm, hot off the back of getting the entry, now just sitting in middle and chilling, anticipating a potential push. The Cloudburst tossed into long from Odorous, and they now start to back away. They have put a bit of pressure down, a bit of presence shown to Envy, hoping that this draws out as many rotations as possible. But Envy holding the line.
Just kind of playing a little bit of a stack over towards Hookah position and Serrano. They kind of have to gamble a little bit, if we're honest. When you're playing on just upgraded pistols, you kind of have to take your best bet. Now they will all shift over through back halls together to try to transition into A as quickly as they can, but Dignitas have come knocking early here. Psalm leading the charge there with the Vandal. Couple of big entries there. No surprise, really, though, considering Envy's limited firepower in a round 2 situation. So Dignitas will mop up as we expected. Only Caboose left here with the share, trying to see if he can at least maybe pull off a couple of little one-taps, but to no avail. As Dignitas will want to win this clean. But Caboose will find one. Not a second, though. Psalm with a quad kill round.
Off to a flying start. 7 kills in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Having a lot of impact in the pistol as well. He picked up 3 in that one. And Envy, who did put in a speculative couple of sheriffs, now have to pretty much use the same again. So Dignitas will be looking very good for that 3-0 start.
Yeah, and you put a little bit into that, so they do have to kind of take another round of just chilling out before they can get the full buy going.
Hunting Omen.
Here comes some aggression. It's Caboose keeping that Deagle. Taken down. Odorous with the Spectre was never going to miss out on that chance. But he also do have the bomb in tow as they head towards the U-Haul. The vent just behind it. We'll start to see some action as Envy quickly scamper back into position, but it will be a post-plant that falls upon them. Labored spray. Odorous gets punished from the classic. And now the SMG can trade hands, and it does just that. Mummy puts down Maka, and he was one of the main players for Envy that really shone towards that comeback trail. And he's keeping them alive in this. They can both pivot off one another. The spike now being planted down. Food still alive with the Sheriff, but not for much longer. Superman does silence him. But Mummy, who was last seen in the U-Hauls, is now slowly edging his way into close proximity. He wants to try and fend off the 2 defenders, but Superman's Phantom is too good. And Dignitas do convert the pistol into a quick-fire 3-0.
Yeah, again, just around, they couldn't really put their best foot forward when it came down to the credits available, but now they are able to get Mummy on the Operator. Full rifles for everyone else. We see a couple of Vandals in play for Caboose and Crashies, but everyone else on Phantoms. We are seeing a little bit more diversity in rifles now that the Vandal, of course, had its buffs a pretty good bit ago with the fire rate and such, though a lot of people still like the Phantom due to smoke spamming and not having tracers and the fast rate of fire and the higher accuracy. So, again, though, at least you see a little bit more parity, which is nice. That's kind of what I think Riot wanted and what makes the game more interesting. And you kind of get some good, viable choices. You have to just choose what you are comfortable with. We are going to see Odorous on the Operator here, posted up, looking for that long B aggressive peek from Envy, and he will find it right away there. Puts down Food, who does like to be that aggressive defender for this Envy team, but not this time as far as working out goes. And there's another one from Odorous. Big entries here from him over here on the B side.
Oh, he's done his job and then some. Not a single point of health lost in the process. And keep in mind that this is Envy's buy.
Yeah.
They've been waiting for this moment, and they instantly get shut down.
Absolutely. They like to play an aggressive defense. I mean, particularly Food has always been really aggressive defensively. But going to get silenced there. And just to give you a little bit of info, in case you didn't know, Odorous was a former professional, or kind of professional CSGO player. He played for Space Station Gaming and Mountain Dew League. Played on a couple other teams at kind of that, semi-pro level. So definitely, and he was an opera in Counter-Strike, so seeing him make that transition as many CS players have. Same with Maka, he was also a former CS player. Obviously Def, formerly of Complexity in CSGO, as well on this team of Dignitas.
30 seconds left.
Odorous has now been silenced by the Operator. Nice attempt from Mummy. Trying the speculative insta-shots around the corner, but he can't stop the spike from being planted. And although he's whizzing bullets past heads, none of them are connecting. Shock Dart is good, keeping Finesse at bay. Look to push in a little bit quicker. U-Haul's control currently established. The recon, how the hell does Sam survive that onslaught? Spins around for a second. Lightning fast reactions and keeping this round in Dignitas' hands. And he could go in for another one. The Empress has been called, and he just completely dismantles Envy.
Oh, man. I don't know what's more frustrating about Reyna. Her being able to dismiss you like that, and you just have to watch her fly away, and you can do nothing about her. The fact that she laughs at you after she just completely wrecks you. It's like just kind of the watching a match burn you twice kind of situation. And Song's had a hell of a start here. What's that?
That flick in U-Hauls was so nutty.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's cool to see. Again, Sam has spent most of his career being kind of more of a supportive guy, playing particularly a lot of Sova, some Viper. I think he played Reyna once on like a split game when he played on Echo 8 or something like that. So he's not completely foreign to playing the Agent, but certainly was not his forte. But he's had, again, a great run with him, or her, rather, character, throughout this qualifier.
It's the frenzy up close, but Sam again picking up his 10th kill as we move into the 5th round. And a real nightmare talisman on the side of Dignitas. Hunter's Fury connecting some damage onto Omen, and Caboose gets finished off as he tries to go aggressive. Bit of a desperation play, Shock Dart through the dark cover lands on the head of Finesse. And Envy just can't catch a break.
Nope. I mean, they're normally pretty good defensively on this map too, Vince. It's the map that they have one of their highest defense win rates besides Split. I think they're near 68% defensively win rate wise on this map. This is also their lowest attack win rate, at only 50% compared to how well they've played Ascent and Split. So this is shaping up really poorly for Envy to start, I guess is what I'm trying to illustrate here with a little bit of statistics. Dignitas flying right now at 5-0. Big game so far for Sam with 11 kills. He's basically got, I think he's got the entirety of Envy covered by himself. If I did the quick math right, which is always risky as a commentator, but I think I've nailed it.
Yep, you are correct. Exactly 11 kills on Envy. And Sam has 11.
It feels good when you risk doing quick math as a commentator and it works out. It's a rare. I mean, I'm able to count better than the Nevada, apparently, so that's nice.
There it is. I was waiting for it. There it is. And Dignitas now unrelenting on their approach. They don't want to give any mercy to the adversaries, but maybe they should have just held their nerve a bit longer, because they've run into the gauntlet of 3 kills Finesse picks up 2, and it's Mummy's operator that silences the other. Odorous, though, keeping this alive with his operator. He's being shoulder peeked, he's being punished, but whips out his sidearm. And Finesse gets splattered from the classic.
Ooh.
2 right clicks to the dome. And that does keep Dignitas in this round.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a window cracking open now for Dignitas to try to come back into this, but that missed shot and that kill from Food probably puts the final nails in the coffin of round number 6 for Dignitas. We'll see, though, Superman able to creep out. Missed opportunity there from the first player that went after him. He's able to teleport his way into heaven, but it was read by Food right away. He kind of had to do it to avoid getting grenaded, but then just easy for Food to listen to and train his crosshair over. And so finally Envy get themselves around here on the defense. Can they build off of it, though? They don't want to let Dignitas sprawl out of control. Dignitas has already had a couple of cool moments throughout this qualification process, taking it to Sentinels in a Haven match that went to overtime. Also lost very close on split 11-13 and able to come beat Spot up and make their way here after having kind of a tough run the open qualifier, getting blasted by 100 Thieves, but they did just enough to make it. And well, they're now 1 best of 3 away from maybe making playoffs, and they're off to a good start here on Bond thus far.
Oh, an excellent start, but you do wonder, similar to Sick earlier today, he'd start to cool off on Bind, and the rest of his team struggled a little bit until he re-emerged. I wonder if Psalm has a bit of a slow patch, a bit of a downwards trend and spiral, if the rest of his teammates can step up. We have seen moments from Odorous with the operator. Rest of the team, not so much, though. Then again, they haven't necessarily been required, thus. When you have one player just entering this well, not necessarily going to get a bunch of kills on the other players.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to what I was talking about earlier. A lot of these guys, you know, haven't had to play against top-level competition either with the agent that they're currently on or just period. Particularly Odorous and Maka, you know, haven't really played a lot of the top teams very often. And, of course, Psalm completely switching his role on a team, not just an agent. So it's definitely a lot of big tests that are being asked of Dignitas very early on with this new lineup under this organization and a very important tournament. But they have been up to the task here on Bond thus far, as they are just kind of spreading the map right now, playing fairly default. Interesting to see Omen kind of be their lurker over towards Showers on this round. But now he will kind of switch up with Killjoy and join over, as it looks like they want to try to do a little bit of a B-split, maybe get some hookah control.
Here.
You have Reyna ready to go here. Has the Leer available, of course, to get in there, but may want to save it for the actual site take. And as I say that, the Killjoy left the turret behind quite some time ago, and they will just kind of bounce away from it. The patch is not an effect that would deactivate that, by the way. We're still playing 1.10.
No charges.
Run it back was used on B long. Phoenix spotted nothing. Mummy, in the meanwhile, was pressured. Stood his ground, delivered 1 shot. 30 seconds.
30 seconds left.
Spike still yet to get planted. Envy rummaging together, trying to fend off. See if they can get another round on the board. Caboose, very important kill. And a second one behind it. His death is sent reeling. And Superman does come in with 2 of his own. Tanked down to 20. Teleporting into his own dark cover keeps him alive a little bit longer. This round is not done just yet. They need Odorous to have some big moments. And Superman gets a 3rd before he's picked off. And now it's all down to the operating, wielding Odorous, who comes through with the classic and takes down Caboose, but only 14 HP to his name and flicks across the crashies. What a beautiful hold from Odorous.
This is such a fantastic game from Odorous. I was a bit concerned about him coming into this game because I know when I've seen him play against some of the bigger teams in the past, he had some issues on Morning Light when he played against like Luminosity and, you know, even, you know, like Built by Gamers and such over at Pulse. He had his little bit of troubles against some of the bigger teams there, but he has really been coming alive here with the operator in this match, and that was a big round victory for Dignitas. It completely resets Envy, who now have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get a full buy here, and even, you know, one of their players has to go to a Spectre. Still a very powerful weapon, of course, but still a little bit less than ideal. So we are seeing Dignitas set up for an aggressive B split play. At least that's how they're forming up. They do have the turret behind to cover their flank. Interesting to see them do it that way. I've been seeing some players on Killjoy, like Mitch in particular and Cloud9, who actually use a turret to like peek for this team first. Like he'll throw it on a corner to clear it, but they're using it to hold flanks instead, which is kind of the more traditional way to use it, I suppose.
My ult's not ready.
Yeah, very good to stop those flanks from coming in, but they've been doing such a good job that flanks haven't really had a chance to come in.
The thing is, I feel like Mitch is ahead of the game because when the next patch comes in, you won't be able to really do that with the turret. It'll be deactivated when Killjoy gets too far away. So you have to position it a little bit closer to yourself to watch flank. Either way, just fine here as Caboose going to find a frag, and they did not know Def was in that corner, though. So that push turns out being bad, and the lockdown is in play now.
Looking to detain as many players as possible, but Def gets caught. And the lockdown gets destroyed. And with it, Envy on a very poor buy.
30 seconds left.
Have made this work. They had ghosts, they had some pistols in play. A real mixed bag. And a massive deficit and a real chance for Dignitas to rip with a fantastic half. Now brought back down to their knees. Envy only have Cypher on A. And he is starting to make a move away as well. But the spike is down. And Dignitas don't have time to go retrieve it. This round will go the way of Envy.
Yeah, and they will save these weapons. And again, it's still patch 1.10, so there's no issue with like the money or anything like that. They still get the same loss bonus as prior, and they also get the rifles over, so they'll be able to full buy off the back of these 2 saved weapons. Still putting up quite the good attacking side. Envy have yet to really put a streak together here. It'd be a pretty big statement if they could.
Oh, Dignitas, how do you come back from that very disappointing result in the previous round? They used to play default ultimates as well.
Yeah, just having Killjoy lurk out showers, trying to go for simultaneous hookah and long B controls is kind of the bread and butter of most teams' attacking sides on this map. At least how you like to start things off, unless you're going to go for a really aggressive early short A push. Or some teams will emphasize, earlier showers control with a couple of players to ensure the orb goes their way, but Dignitas playing a little bit more traditional and slower pace, I guess you could say. But Mummy, it's that forward angle on short, and we'll find Psalms. That's a great opener here for Envy as they are trying to claw back into this map.
Yeah, they had that double stack on shorts. They had each other's angles covered. By design, Mummy misses the second shot. Not really punished for it a great deal, though. It's Step 2 has been forced away. Does get the ultimate orb at least. Of course, used his lockdown the previous round and got caught while he planted it. And that's with a bit of an off angle, getting aggressive. This could backfire. If he goes down without any damage or kills, it could backfire, but he's got himself one. I believe he pulled out the neural theft to get information and was caught in the process, but Odorous still alive, still kicking. 30 seconds coming up.
Recon will get a little bit of intel as they start making their way out of the showers through this smoke. Paranoia comes in, but is not going to phase Mummy, who holds the angle, finds Odorous. Now it's all left to Superman.
Just to survive a little bit longer. The Mummy's classic to the forehead. 3-6. Envy starting to claw their way back in on Bind.
Yeah, if they could win out, they could tie this game up as we transition sides, but the way that Dignitas have played their attacking side, I would not be the least bit surprised to see them find 7 or 8 before we switch. They will be able to have enough credits to go for the buy this round, though it will leave a couple of players short, so they may decide to take more of a middle-of-the-road approach and make sure they get a full buy in the next round. It's indeed exactly what happens. They sell back some weapons and just go to mostly Shara, so they do have the one Vandal on Psalm. He's the one that had a little bit more to work with here.
Dude went for a quick peek, but decides better of that. Probably for the best. 4 players heading towards Hookah. And Def is leading the charge with a Sheriff. Going in first. Leah tossed in, not really affecting them. Mummy with the Operator rings out for the first, and now the re-aggression could be forthcoming. There's a dark cover just behind it. It's going to be hard to see how Dignitas get anything done, and they're being butchered on the approach. Finesse with 2 wallbang shots. Lots of damage. Long to Depth, who's now been finished off, and the last man standing is Odorous, who maybe can get a couple of consolation kills if they push into his crosshair. But other than that, it won't be happening. A clean sweep, flawless round, great for the economy of Envy, and of course the confidence on top of it.
Yeah, starting to really find their footing here after such a cold start when they went down 0-5. They've won 4 of the last 5 in response. And again, have a great opportunity to tie this game up as we transition sides, which, again, this is one of the maps they've had one of their lowest attacking win rates, so that does cause for some concern on if they can make the full comeback come into play, but can't really know how steady Dignitas' defense is with this new lineup and with the new role for Psalm and such, so we'll just have to wait and see. But so far, they've had a great start on the attacking side, but Envy's response has been not so bad itself.
Nowhere to run!
Odorous just smacked through the blades. Maka's Hunter's Fury doesn't really connect. And Depth, who was put down very low, just a point away from death, and he just has to try and survive, but his teammates fall around him. It's another clean sweep of around the spike carrier. In Superman has been vanquished, and Maka, the only player that's really answered back, but he gets spotted and forced out. And I mentioned before that Depth was very close to death. He's still standing, but for how much longer?
I'm going to go with maybe another second.
Remaining.
And I think even I was off there. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much a done deal. I think it really just comes down to a great combination there between Foods Phoenix and Crashies on the Sova. Great recon bolt on top of the Blaze. Allows him to essentially just get a freebie through the flames. And really just kind of deny any type of early hookah control over to Dignitas. And then they quickly found out about presence at Fountain as well. And then they were able to set up a nice little crossfire when Dignitas tried to recommit to hookah later. So that was just good teamwork there from Envy. Good synergy with the abilities. It's so great to combo a recon bolt with that Blaze. It basically just gives you like a free chance to put on an artificial wall and then wall hack through it.
Joke's over! You're dead!
Run it back, deployed. Once they get done with it, well, a lot of information. They push all the way down B long.
Cover going out.
That's a lot of intel for the teammates. They can keep 3 on A Envy, but Odorous comes straight in. First headshot connects. First blood's been drawn. Finesto holding off against 2. Double headshot. Psalm and Odorous put down, and now Food shows his hand with the Phoenix rotation. And it's looking great for Envy again. Dignitas still have 2 players. Both of them are healthy and control over the spike. And they decide to go for a rotation, but Crashies is already here. And he has all the utility at his disposal, doesn't require it. The first wide swing goes his way as he puts a bullet into the side of Superman's head. And although Maka does repel him, he's been dropped to 21 HP. And there's plenty of time. He doesn't have to force the spike down. He can try and catch one of these players in transition. But now they know exactly where he is. Recon dart fired out. Trying to take the initiative, trying to get up close, takes down the spike cam, wide swings in, hits the headshot onto Finesse. Surely Maka can't get this done.
He's definitely going to get that spike planted. There's no doubt about that, as it is going to be a long ways off here before his opposition is able to really make the rotate. In fact, he's not even convinced it is an A plant just yet. Now, of course, he'll figure it all out. And Maka is still low on health, but he has the Owl Drone to kind of help him get information on this recake attempt. And he's got time on his side a bit. Food is the one that has to work quick here. And he's still slow walking through because he's not sure if they're holding a close corner on his way through spawn. So this is actually a tough ask of Food despite the health superiority. He's got so much he has to clear and worry about. And yeah, with the Owl Drone, it's going to give Maka free intel a little bit later on.
He does have hot hands though. He has Blaze. He has plenty of utility that allows him a chance. He's tapped it. He knows he has to stick it if he's going to get this full defuse. Now the full stick comes in, and Maka, with the wide swing, gets a beautiful clutch. That is massive and could have reverberating effects come the end of this map.
Yeah, that was a big round because, I mean, Envy was on the recovery train. They were doing so well, and even that round started off just fine for them. It looked like they were going to have it, but big clutch there in the end. And that is going to cause that slight bit of separation as we switch sides. It will not be the 6-6 tie that Envy were working so hard to work towards. And it started off with a bang here from Dignitas, going up 5-0, just having their way with Envy all across the server. We did see that Envy had life about them, clawing together enough rounds to keep this one competitive, but that was a big clutch in the end there. No doubt about it. Big one from Maka.
I suppose this is where we go back to what you said, that when it comes to percentages and stats, doesn't necessarily favor Envy on the attack. So
yeah,
have they bit off more than they could chew?
Bond's a tough one, man. It's a tough one to attack. There's a lot of, really small choke points, but, Octagon and Hookah in particular. Really, you just have to kind of rely on being able to split B effectively, or be able to really get up short A and control U-Haul, and then work from there. And sometimes those areas can be really hard to capture.
Alt orb has been picked up. They thought about trying some aggression through showers, and they're now getting it done. This is valuable information that's being gathered by Dignitas. Jet's still pushing around the back. This allows them to send over a third and now a fourth player to B. If Envy don't get a move on onto the site, they could be walking into a stack. They could be walking into Bedlam, to Mayhem, but the first 2 kills go their way. Caboose paint shell onto Sam, and a headshot delivered. First class. It's immaculate for Envy. Not even a player lost in the process. A flawless pistol.
And that's the statement that you want to make if you're Envy. When you're playing from behind and you're the favorite, you want to be able to establish yourself right away on the attack. So getting the pistol, getting the early econ buff, closing the gap on the scoreboard rapidly, getting players comfortable and back in the zone mentally, they all go hand in hand. And so that's definitely good news for Envy fans out there. So I gotta give one particular shout out real quick, Vince, if you don't mind. Our boy Corey Dunn actually now works for Envy as an executive producer. So shout out to him and his new job. I'm sure he's gonna do great things with Envy and their content.
You'll have a couple of clips from this match, I'm sure, and the one
possibly,
previous.
yeah. There you go.
They do steamroll into a 2v4 in their advantage. Spike being planted down.
Spike planted.
And considering that the remainder of Sam...
One enemy remaining.
Oh, I was about to say Sam and Maka, but let's be honest, they've just both been absolutely wrecked by Finesse. Didn't really ever have a chance, to be honest. They both had classics up against a decent buy.
Yep.
They were all tied up at 7 apiece.
Yeah, and again, just kind of like when we're talking about Envy playing against Sentinels, they are a team that, again, really favors the fast-paced play. They're a very explosive team, either up short A or, you know, doing the classic V-splits through long and Hookah. Obviously, Cypher being used by Finesse, usually going to be kind of that A-side lord, particularly trying to fight for Showers control. So this is all pretty standard. It's just going to be that early short A emphasis from Envy to kick things off this particular round while they leave Silva behind at the fountain, which is, again, standard to have kind of your intel players on the periphery of the map. As Finesse will clear out Showers with the cam. One-way smoke is in place on the double stack box. That's so annoying to deal with if you're an attacking team on bind. It just kind of forces you to wait. Or maybe even pivot your emphasis elsewhere on the map, as it looks like they do indeed want to shift over towards Hookah's side, but Killjoy will be there, and her utility can be oh so pesky to deal with to get control of this area of the map.
Oh, absolutely.
I want the robots to fight.
Has already forced them back as well. You can see that just single-handedly neutralizing Caboose, but also forcing the Phoenix away. Food couldn't get anything done. Now they do regain what was once theirs, getting back into Hookah, but it's a great cost and a lot of time. Additionally, a lot of resources here, Dust. They have to try and go back now towards short A.
Indeed. At least they're able to clear Jet off that boosted position with the drone, but as you said, they're running out of time, and they're also low on personnel, and Odorous is standing firm here with the Vandal to keep the man advantage flowing. Superman now coming in as reinforcements. And Dignitas is sweeping through this round. Envy got halted at every corner. Really great stout defense here from Dignitas, really slowing down the fast-paced play that Envy liked to implement. They never really could get the launch pad underneath them to really rock it into a site the way they're used to. And that keeps the game so close, and it just holds Envy off again from being able to take a lead. They are able to still fully buy, though. And this time they want to put more emphasis over towards long B side. Cypher even already over here towards outside Hookah. So other than his trap wires in place to watch flanks, it seems like they really want to focus in on this B side. As I say that, though, looks like Finesse is sliding back over to keep an eye on Showers.
Also, 3 players strong, about to peek down B long. But it works against Dignitas, even with so many players there. Maybe a case of too many cooks spoil the broth, because they instantly get repelled. And it's Odorous that falls prey. And with that, Envy can now try and make the most.
I've heard of too many cooks in the kitchen, but not too many chefs in the broth. I don't think the chefs would be the problem. I think it'd be the stuff you put in it. Anyway,
Too many
we're not
hands
gonna.
in there, I guess.
You never want to put your hands in the broth, Vince. It's not the added flavor you'd like. Speaking of flavor, a little bit of spiciness there from Psalm. Aggressive out of the hookah. A little bit of a puff pass with the leer and a frag as well.
Oh, turret is so irritating.
Dude, I want to see the boombot and the turret fight it out. Wouldn't that be sick if the turret shot the boombot? It's like battle bots, but in a video game.
You're dead.
Enough of that, though. Big attack coming in from Envy. Yeah.
Yep, they're going for the push. Run it back was popped, but 30 seconds to go. It has been pushed back time and time again. Big moment in the round. If that kill had gone the way of the Sheriff, then U-Haul's could instead it's all on food, and he is being sprayed in showers through the wall. Psalm, no mercy, no prisoners taken.
That's not the kind of spraying you want to happen to you in a shower. You're hoping for the nice, calming, warm water to drip upon you, not bullets raining down and allowing DIGNITAS to build even more of a lead from the underdog position. Let's be clear here. Envy came in as one of the favorites to, I think, be in the top 4 for first strike, depending on how the bracket shook down. I think everyone was thinking it should be Sentinels, Envy, Cloud9, TSM's obviously a good shout. A lot of people had high hopes for 100 Thieves. So there are definitely, plenty of teams out there, but DIGNITAS was not in that conversation, I don't think. So for them to be doing this well against Envy here, this is great news for them. Because there's definitely a couple players on this team who have had success in bigger tournaments in the past, when they played with, like, FaZe and such. Speaking of Psalm and Def, of course. But we'll have to see. This is a bit of an eco for Envy this time around.
Terminated.
Yeah, in the pregame, we were saying that it should favor Envy, but DIGNITAS are no scrubs. These guys absolutely can stand their ground. They can deliver.
Sure.
It's exactly what Depth's just done. Forces Envy back onto short A. Will be just against the lowly Omen defending. But Superman is not to be trifled with, and that's why instantly nullifying and repelling the push as they look to raise it to the ground and plunder. Superman sprayed through the dark cover, taking off the head of Mummy. And Finesse tries to at least get a little bit chaotic, but ultimately that is too good. As are DIGNITAS. They move on to double digits first.
Yeah, to kind of add on to what you were saying about DIGNITAS being no slouches. I mean, again, it's worth noting that Def and Psalm were able to do well whenever they were playing for FaZe for a short stint, and even as DIGNITAS, when they had Poise on the team and they had guys like Lasky and such playing, they were able to get a couple of top 4 finishes at some bigger tournaments. So that, I mean, they've been able to beat teams like TSM in best of 3 series. So it's not as if it's out of the question for them to pull off one against one of the elite teams in the region. It was just more of, can they do it with this new lineup and with so many moving parts that goes with that? Bringing in 2 new players, working them into the system, switching Psalm to a whole new role. Def having to take over Killjoy after playing pretty much perma Cypher. It's definitely a lot to juggle, but they've really been up to it here in this series. And they're not gonna slow down, Vince. They are getting so aggressive on B, and look at them just rip through Envy. Not even letting them set up their attack.
There's not much to add, really. Got super aggressive down B long. The spike was dropped down, and now they can just pull the plug, go back, sit on the site, knowing that pressure is beginning to swell. Now, this is a very similar situation to where Envy were against Sentinels, if you cast your mind back. At one point, they trailed 12-7. They took us to overtime. So we're getting into familiar territory, but DIGNITAS have actually looked rock solid on their defense side for the most part.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great little combo you can do with the long B aggression. You have Omen to send down the Paranoia through the long B hall. Then you have Reyna who can leer the corner, and then you're able to use Jet's dash, perhaps, or her smokes, as well as just running out with your gun out and just taking fights. And for a team that's like Envy that likes to set up and then explode, if you disrupt that, you kind of take their game plan off the board.
30
Force them to
seconds
have to
left.
scramble, and now they're scrambling in a 2v4. They will get the spike down, however, but still has so much of battle against to try to pull this one through, and it doesn't look good.
To secure the plant, really, there's nothing else that would have been forthcoming. And DIGNITAS, successful defuse, successfully dismantle Envy, 11-7 lead. But with the post-plant, Envy should have some options available to them, but they've got to start making them work.
And it's essentially now or never for them on this particular map. Obviously, we still have at least a cent to go in this series, and this is a much bigger game than earlier events, because, I mean, if you lose this, you're out, and you basically have to go play in the UMG tournament. And because you didn't make top 8, you don't even have the luxury of, getting seeded directly into the closed qualifier of the UMG event. You have to battle all the way back. And yeah, sure, Envy, in theory, would have no problems, you know, playing against that level of competition, getting back to this spot, but do you really want to have to go to that hassle? You'd like to secure it here and now, and especially because you're the favorite team in this particular instance, at least to get the playoffs.
No, absolutely, the pressure was off for the previous team. Not many people really expected them to win it. They are absolutely the favorites in this one, though. Showstopper, up close. Caboose has to use it. We all just fire it into vents, but no one is there. Meanwhile, Mummy pushing through, can't quite transition into the second spray, gets punished by Odorous. Lots of damage inflicted, though. And now the operating, wielding Odorous can perch into heaven. Psalm dispatching Crashies. A must-win round for Envy is now open for debate. It's effectively a coin flip, but you'd maybe say it's weighted in favor of Envy being a post-plant. Hot hands down into the U-Hauls. And Psalm getting aggro with the Empress. Spotting food first and foremost. 2 players over on this location. They desperately need an entry back onto the site. They need it now. And it comes in the hands of Caboose. They're trying to go for the defuse in amongst all the smoke and all the carnage. Oh! And they don't get it done. In the last few seconds, the last milliseconds, Finesse threads the headshot. And Envy take this round somehow.
I cannot believe it. I thought for sure they were in for some trouble. DIGNITAS were doing so great covering that diffuser. Maka getting some big kills, but Finesse was able to come through just in time. Huge moment for him. It keeps his team afloat in this opening map. It gives them a bit of a lifeline. Double op now in play for DIGNITAS, by the way. You don't see that as often on defense anymore. It used to be kind of a staple. The cost and nerf to the weapon kind of changed that a bit, but you are going to see it here from Deft and Odorous. So Odorous will be posted up on short. Deft looking to play it over towards B side. Definitely a couple of different long angles you can take with operators defensively on this map, so it definitely can be viable. Big catch.
Odorous put himself in an awkward position, and once he was spotted by the Owl drone, that was pretty much all over. Had to force his way back. Envy now collapsing onto the site, looking to pillage and plunder, marauding and sacking it down. And even though a very low food can just about survive, now with the run it back, that will allow him to go back up again and peek in twice. Also getting the headshot instantly coming in. Throwing down the hot hands onto Vent, forces away, gets all of that health back. An excellent turn of events for Envy. And DIGNITAS have to save. Envy keeping themselves in the first map.
Yeah, big play there with that drone. Not only did it detect information, also Odorous wasn't able to get away. Like, usually a Jet gets away with that type of stuff by just kind of tailwinding her way out of dangerous situations, but Odorous is not able to escape. It's a big entry. And Envy, again, being that kind of explosive style team, when you give them that pick, they are going to follow it up rapidly. You better be prepared, and DIGNITAS was in that particular moment. Really good trading there from Envy, only losing 1 player on that take. Finally finding a bit of success on the attack. This is the first time they've been able to win 2 buys in a row. If it wasn't for pistol victory, they would be well and truly out of this thing, but they've used that in the last couple to really start building a case that they could actually make a comeback. Full buy is still in effect for DIGNITAS, but again, that double operator, unless one of them was picked up, which I can't remember, that was very costly.
Yeah, the game on our hands dust. It was looking like DIGNITAS may just run away with this. Recon Bolt has been instantly destroyed. Not play any further part. Leah tossed out. No bullets come up, so Psalm knows at least for close range it's unlikely any of the attackers will be breathing down his neck.
Yeah, but now he can use this drone to maybe even take a peek out here towards Fountain. The drone will spot someone towards the backside. Psalm doesn't feel comfortable taking the fight, knowing that there could be someone there just waiting for a bait and switch. Kind of caught in no man's land right now, but is able to get away to Octagon before Envy retake the angle. He'll now hold a different one. A drone, though, will come after him. The timing can be great, but this is a great Lear combination to step out and frag, but he still gets caught 1-for-1.
Excellent place from Tom, though, delaying so much time and not overextending until the end. A bit unfortunate, but a one-on-one. Omen using the ult in amongst all of the chaos. Allows him to now play some mind games. 35 seconds, scattering the defenders.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to set up for that same double smoke play by the truck and
30
just try to
seconds
take
left.
into U-Haul and then go for the plant. They've already caught one of Killjoy's utility pieces there on the ground. Smokes are going to come out. Finesse has found the turret. Cage going up as well over towards U-Haul. But Dig are finding the frags.
You should
Hunter's
run.
Fury not finding any though.
Nowhere to run!
Not too much information either. Killjoy
10
putting
seconds
down
left.
the lockdown. Now the Hunter's Fury on the attack side has to try and come in with some kills. A spike is being planted in the last few seconds. It will successfully go down. And just in the nick of time, Dignitas now, with just 2 players remaining, have to try and submerge and get themselves back onto the site. Vent and Heaven will be the 2 angles of aggression. Maka going out first. Spraying through the boxes, nothing forthcoming. 2 players in U-Haul. Shot start goes in. Recon. They're following up, but Maka lies them up for a double spray, and that's it done. What the hell just happened, Envy?
They had U-Haul control. I almost thought for a second they just also had to pull the plug and just save
Match point.
instead of committing for the retake. But then in the blink of an eye, they just line up a collateral almost inside U-Haul and then wipe away the round. That is sloppy from Envy. These post plants have really haunted them. I mean, you think about it, the last 5 rounds that played, they had to spike down in 4 of them, and they've only come up with 1. And then the other was just off of frags. So, that's not a good look. And again, it goes to that low attacking win rate percentage for Envy on this map. It's been a great little pick here for them to toss inside the pick ban.
Dare I mention Sick punished them in very similar ways against Sentinels, and it cost them. Could very well prove to be a repeat performance, a bit of deja vu, as Dignitas now have to try and contend with another A hit. Post plant coming to fruition. Food will successfully get this down. There's no one that can stop him. No one that can repel him. And Envy taking forward positions in U-Haul. Also Cypher watching the back, who will come head-to-head with Reyna momentarily. And an important fight that goes the way of Finesse. And Sam has been one of their key fraggers. Neural Theft tossed in for good measure. Dark cover from Mummy. Looks for another one. Gonna get pressured from 2 angles. Doesn't need to fight this just yet. And Superman comes through with 1. He gets repelled though from Food before he gets traded out from Odorous. And Caboose also stepping up. Envy doing a solid job of holding. Just about. And Dignitas now forced into a save. Odorous has to keep the operator alive. 2 more map points forthcoming. And he may not even get the luxury of saving it.
Oh, no.
He gets dispatched from Finesse.
And their economy was already kind of low previously, and they just got hard reset. And they weren't able to save the operator and Odorous, who I think should have played in a way that never really risked giving it up. So I do wonder about that just a little bit. Luckily, they're still able to full buy here, but the issue is, if this doesn't work, you don't really have a whole lot you can buy in the final round of regulation to stop it from going to overtime. So, I mean, it's kind of now or never for Dignitas to stop an overtime out of Envy, who have a little bit more reserve cash than them going forward. Of course, that doesn't matter as much. They have to win out, but it's worth knowing that it could be a long-term impact that we have to kind of consider.
Odorous with the operator, updrift, and tailwind away. Hook a shot, missed it. Run it back, tossed in. Paranoia, perfectly timed though. They can't really afford to fully invest behind that though. And although Sam was up close, he was put into a really awkward position. Curveball now into U-Haul, which is being taken control over. And all the meanwhile, Showstopper just charging right down the throat of Dignitas, who've been completely decimated. Not a single player remains on the A site, and only 2 of them in total remain overall, and they have to back away to save again.
Yeah, again, that's just Envy showing you their textbook explosive playstyle. Even though the run it back from Food didn't pick up a kill, it got perfect information on the defensive setup. It allowed them to swing out and catch a player in no man's land, trying to transition out of the kind of closet position to get over towards Showers. And then they had the Showstopper as kind of a pushback option if they needed it, which they never really had to pull the trigger on. They could just kind of use it as a soft clear on the retake. So everything went swimmingly there for Envy on just, you know, Food and company charging through off the back of the flashes and then run it back. And again, just kind of looking more themselves in a round like that and tidying up the post-plant situation.
That goes there.
That's the Envy I'm more used to seeing. They've now won 4 of the last 5. They just need 1 more to force yet another overtime, Vince, which again, we've already casted a pretty marathon game between Envy and Sentinels on this very map, and we might be doing so again, Vince, depending on how this round goes. And you know what? I'd love to see it.
Oh yeah, I'm right
Get
alongside
out
you.
of my way.
Looking at the buy, Dignitas certainly coming out second best. They got Stingers, they got a Spectre in play, but they do have a Blade Storm.
Yep.
So a bunch of daggers. Tossed at foreheads, perhaps.
That's
Need
interesting.
to land the bullseye.
A cage to give Mummy the angle. Yeah. They put the cage down so Mummy could get a little bit more comfortable on top of the box there with the operator, and they're still just waiting to see if someone's actually going to come around the corner. And, I mean, Mummy might fall prey to it. The alarm bot will be what they need to use to figure things out. A 1-for-1 trade on the showers.
Lock in sight.
Yeah, it's a 1-for-1, but Jet takes so much damage. Has to play passively now with the Blade Storm as opposed to going aggressive for those peaks, knowing that one false step, and it not only their life, but potentially overtime lose.
Yeah, Caboose is getting a lot of intel here on the B side. Luckily, we wasn't ult in play here for Def to get his Omen in position to help out here, at least get some information. But Maka, he's the big one here. Hunter's Fury takes down Caboose, gets it into a 4-on-3 retake. Opportunity has to win it here and now.
Yeah, desperately, they still have Blade Storm, but they also still have Tom, who now has Empress. Has risen to conquer the rest of Envy. Only 2 players still stand. Sam doesn't even have to overcommit, just waiting for the teammates to arrive. Food tries to spray, missing out. This could be the beginning of the end of the map. And Crashy's all that remains, but not for much longer. Dignitas, with a very poor buy to end things off, have made it work. It's going to be close, but they should have time for the defuse. Map 1 goes the way of Dig. Their choice comes good.
Big victory there from Dignitas on Bind. Their pick and, you know, taking advantage of one of, I would say, Envy's weaker maps. When you look at some of like their win rates on each side of the map and just kind of their track record on it. It's one of the maps that they have a negative win rate on. I think it's the only map they actually have a total negative win rate on with the core of the team. So, you know, Dignitas finding a bit of a vulnerability there, I guess you could say. You know, having just sat back and watched the game against Sentinels and maybe even got even more of a read on their opponent in that process and came out swinging.
A really impressive performance, thus, and I thought this would probably be a 2-0 to Envy. I've been proved completely wrong on that. I think a lot of people have as well. This is going to be a head-turner, but we'll find out if they can pick up map 2 and indeed progress through to the playoffs and knock Envy out after this break.